Governor, before you go, we do a program that I have to say is, pretty much a ripoff from your award-winning program, Ask the Governor, called Ask the Congressman, with our wonderful Congressman Frank LoBiondo, your good friend and mine. And this is the hour that we do this each month. And he is here right now. He's been listening for the last 10 minutes or so. And two of my favorites, I don't fall in love with many elected officials because they typically let you down, but two of my absolute favorites on the top of the list, Governor Christie, Congressman LoBiondo, and the first time ever we have you both at the same time. Congressman, say hello to our governor.
Good morning, Governor.
Good morning, Frank. How are you?
Oh, we're rocking and rolling down here.
What am I going to do? In several weeks, my governor is going to be gone. In a year, my congressman is going to be gone. LoBiondo and I came in together, Governor. He's leaving us.
Listen, it's an enormous loss for the people of the state. And I want to remind everybody that the very first person who endorsed me for governor on the day I announced in 2009 was Frank LoBiondo. And so when you talk about loyal friends and extraordinary public servants, not only has Frank, both during his time in the state legislature and his time in Congress, been an extraordinary representative of the people of the region, but on a personal note from this governor, you always remember the first person who endorsed you, always. And Frank LoBiondo was the first person to endorse me in February of 2009 when I announced for governor. And so, Frank, it's kind of nice that we're both going out together, buddy. I appreciate it very much, all the help and support you've given me, and the great service you've given our country. The country is going to miss you, but I'm glad that you and your wife Tina and are going to be able to enjoy some time together without you hustling back and forth to D.C.
Well, thanks so much, Governor. And I've got my fingers crossed. And one of the topics that you talked about and is hot right now, and was glad to see you had made the trip to the Supreme Court a couple of days ago. We just hope that we've got one big victory left here, and your administration with sports betting. This would be a crowning touch.
It would be. And well, listen, Harry, I'm going to let you go to Ask the Congressman. I don't want to impede on any more Frank's time. So go to Ask the Congressman, because these people are going to miss this fella, and being able to talk to him on a regular basis, both in his district office and over these airwaves. So listen, God bless Margie. We're praying for her this morning. Please keep me up to date on how she's doing. Give her a hug for me when you get over there to see her, and let her know that the entire Christie family is praying for her and for her quick recovery and her pain-free life after this surgery. So you guys go get them. Go knock it out of the park. Give people a good show this morning, Harry. And it's great to talk to you. And, of course, Frank, we love you. So we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Governor, thank you. Thank you for being my good and loyal friend. Thank you, sir. Governor Chris Christie. Congressman Frank LoBiondo, welcome to Ask the Congressman. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Mr. Hurley.
Wow, a lot going on. A lot going on.
But before we go any further, I know your heart is heavy this morning, and let me join with legions of others in sending our thoughts and prayers to Margie for a speedy recovery, and to you for the anxiety that all of this brings. We get up in the morning, we don't think too much if we don't have problems, and for years for her to be fighting the pain and the way you described it of what's going on, we just all hope and pray that there's a speedy recovery.
Thank you, Congressman. Let me, before we get to some of your callers, because they're already stacked up wanting to talk to their congressman, that's a very good thing, and that's why Congressman LoBiondo does his program, Ask the Congressman, each month on our program, and I'm really thrilled that we do it during the Hurley in the Morning program. It's even been a better program. Congressman LoBiondo, you announced that you will be retiring. I actually had the privilege, and I have to thank you for that, because we came in together. We're going to go out together here. I had the privilege of actually breaking that story that went absolutely viral, that you would be retiring at the end of your record-setting 12th term. That puts you ahead of anyone in the entire history of the state. No one has served in this 2nd congressional district seat longer than you. I don't think, particularly the way that our country's going, I don't think anybody ever will. I don't think it would be possible. to win 12 consecutive terms. I'm also convinced you could have won easily 13 consecutive terms. To anybody that talks smack and says, oh, he ran, he's not running because he thought he wasn't going to win. You would have won if you ran. And people that are running now wouldn't have run if you were running. So I'm going to just throw that in the garbage can, that comment. But tell us your thoughts, your raw personal thoughts of this decision, and in the fact that in about a year, a little over a year from now, 13 months, whatever it is, that something you've been doing for nearly a quarter of a century, a good portion of your life, you won't be doing anymore. Your thoughts?
Well, first, for the comments that you made a little bit earlier, and we've talked about often, loyalty. And I remember very clearly when probably not 5 people in Atlantic County who knew the name Frank LoBiondo, and there was a talk radio host by the name of Harry Hurley that I met and sat in the studio in Atlantic City, and we talked, and we've been on a pretty amazing journey since. And I made up my mind a very long time ago, growing up on a farm in Cumberland County, that loyalty matters, things my dad taught me. You never forget your friends, and you never forget your roots. Now, that having been said, this was a gut-wrenching decision. It was something that's very bittersweet. But I've thought about it a couple cycles back before I had the opportunity to serve on the House Intelligence Committee. And, when's the right time? There's not a book. There's not a formula. You just don't know. But I worked for 18 years to have the opportunity to chair the Aviation Committee, which oversees our great tech center. And once I was able to get the chairmanship of aviation, and we're limited to 6 years in chairing a committee with Republican rules in the House. And then when I really thought I might have been leaving because I couldn't make it to the House Intelligence Committee when John Boehner was Speaker, and I did make it, and then had the opportunity to chair the CIA committee, which we've talked about a little bit. One of the most remarkable experiences that anyone could ever have, and one of only a handful of people in the whole country who get to do what I do. And come January of 2019, had I sought to run for re-election and been successful, I would have been off of both of those committees. And I just could not get my brain around what it would be like not to have that opportunity. So a whole lot of factors go into it. 24 years. At some point, it's got to be passed on to someone else. And when I started all this, Harry, I made up my mind I would not pace myself. I've watched some of my colleagues, and I watch them drop into neutral in the off year. I watch them, there are things that you can do to take it a little bit easier. With 40% of the state of New Jersey, I made up my mind that I would give it everything, every day. The sacrifices that my family and my wife made for me to be able to do this job the right way, people have no idea what goes into this. And I did it very willingly and very much appreciate the opportunity that people gave to me for all of these years. But my responsibility was to do it right. Now, when you do it right that way, and you do it for 24 years, month in and month out, a day in and day out, year in and year out, at a certain point, you've got to say, hey. And the other thing is, you want to go out on top. And I don't have any doubt I could have won again. I think the coalition of people that I've helped and supported and worked with would have been there once again. But the idea is to do it on my terms. And I didn't want any of the nonsense about, the election results influenced my decision and this influenced my decision. So I didn't want to announce it prior to or during the election because of Chris Brown and a number of other factors. But I also didn't want to wait till the results were in for some of the naysayers and all these people who think they have all the answers to be able to claim why I did what I did. So you got the heads up. The decision was made. It's on my terms. There was no creditable candidate on the horizon. I don't think there would have been. But it is what it is. I've got a year to run through the tape and to give it my very best for the 2nd District, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
What an intellectually honest, beautiful answer. We're going to take our first break. We'll catch our breath. We're going to come back, and we'll go right to your calls. In between your calls, I have a list of what I think are very important questions for our Ask the Congressman, Congressman Frank LoBiondo program, which continues.
WPG Talk Radio 104.1 presents Ask the Congressman. It's your opportunity to talk directly to Congressman Frank LoBiondo. Call 407-1450. Now, with Congressman Frank LoBiondo, here's Harry Hurley.
Hey, thank you very much. I hope you were here for the ride from about, 10 minutes, 7 or so minutes before the top of the last hour, right through to about maybe 10 minutes or so into this hour. We had Governor Chris Christie. We had Governor Chris Christie with United States Congressman Frank LoBiondo. And yes, it is our scheduled Ask the Congressman with United States Congressman Frank LoBiondo, taking your phone calls, your comments, your questions at 609-407-1450. We'll prove that right now. Welcome to Ask the Congressman. You're on the air. Go right ahead.
Good morning. Good morning, Harry. Good morning, Frank.
Good morning.
Frank, if we don't get a chance to talk again, thank you so much. I think everyone in this district give you a heartfelt thank you for all you've done for this area.
Thank you.
My question is, the Obama administration had opened the state for the state of Israel and was refusing to allow Israel to purchase in-air refueling tanker aircraft. Will President Trump allow the IDF to purchase and have the ability to have in-air refueling capability by purchasing tanker aircraft?
I believe so. You know, there are a lot of decisions being made, and we saw a major one that was announced and made this week that was really long overdue. And I think that while you have General Mattis and H.R. McMaster and General Kelly understanding that Israel is the only ally we can depend on in that part of the world and shares everything with us, that we have an opportunity to make them even a stronger ally, which in turn, I believe, strengthens us. So I'm a strong supporter of that, and I believe it will happen.
Because I think they're going to need that type of aircraft if anything does jump off over there, to have the capability to reach out and take out the enemy.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But we also have such a strong alliance that if something were to happen and they don't especially have that capability, we have the ability in the alliance to be able to help out with things like that.
Harry, take care of Margie. God bless.
Thank you, Eric.
Once again, thank you for your years of service.
Thank you.
Very nice call, Eric. Thanks. 26 minutes past the hour. United States Congressman Frank LoBiondo. Before our next caller, and we'll make this a quick question, short answer, even though I know you could do a monologue on it. You never did your job fearful of the next election or casting votes by licking your finger and 50% plus one vote liked it, so you went that way. And of course, you've even cast votes where some people disagree. And that's the nature of your job, no matter what you do. You know, you're not 100% of the people are not going to agree with it. Is there something to be said for these next 13 months that you have where you're not going to stand before election? You get where I'm going with that. Do you feel even like I don't even know how to call it, because you weren't a political creature where you'd have to change a thing in your final 13 months. But is there something to be said for knowing that you're not running, but yet you're going to be doing the job for still an extended period of time? You get what I'm saying about that. What are your thoughts about that question?
Sure. Well, you're not. The fact isn't lost that there are no more 30-second ads coming after me. The DCCC, the dirty tricks, and all those things are in the past. But my commitment to myself and the district is to do as good or better job in these last 13 months and to run through the tape, not walk through, not crawl through, but to run through the tape. And, Bob Franks, you remember Bob Franks?
Oh, yeah.
And he recruited me to run for the assembly, and I sat next to him when we were in the assembly, and he got elected to Congress one term before me. And I remember in 1994 when I was elected, and the results were in on Tuesday. On Thursday, I was in Washington that year, meeting with Bob Franks and saying, listen, I know there's, they bring you in and they give you orientation, but tell me what I need to know. And I sat down with him, and he was full of wisdom, and he said something to me. You have a very big decision to make as a member of Congress. You're going to have to decide whether you will have a district agenda or a beltway agenda. Doesn't mean one's wrong and the other's right or anything like that, but you can't do both. And what that means is if you have a district agenda, you're going to have to always put the district first. And that means you're not going to be the fair-haired boy with the leadership. You're not going to chair task forces. You're not going to chair major committees. You're not going to do things like that. And that's the attitude I've had, and that's the attitude that I'm going to keep for the next 13 months. If it's right for the district, then I'm going to push full speed for it. If it's not right for the district, I'm going to do everything I can to stop it.
You're listening to United States Congressman Frank LoBiondo. It's his monthly program, Ask the Congressman, on WPG. 104.1 FM, WPG Talk Radio at 1450 AM, and everywhere, anywhere at WPG Talk Radio, the app on your smartphone. We'll be back. If you haven't downloaded that yet, please do it. Here's a little promo about that now. We'll come back in just a few minutes. And our next two callers, just so we inspire you, stay right where you are. You will be next, so get your question ready, and you'll be right after that. 609-407-1450 phone lines are open. I am respectfully yours, Hurley in the Morning, with United States Congressman Frank LoBiondo.
When you need to know, make the switch to WPG Talk Radio 104.1. And when you need to know the absolute latest breaking news, download the new WPG Talk Radio app for your iPhone or Droid and enable push notifications. The WPG Talk Radio app will alert you to breaking news, road closures and traffic delays, important severe weather information, and more. Download the new WPG Talk Radio app today through Google Play or the App Store. WPG Talk Radio 104.1 presents Ask the Congressman. It's your opportunity to talk directly to Congressman Frank LoBiondo. Call 407-1450. Now, with Congressman Frank LoBiondo, here's Harry Hurley.
Hey, listen, understandably, I'm a little bit distracted this morning for obvious reasons, with my wife literally in surgery while I do the show. But I just had a moment of clarity. I better nail something down here. Congressman, are you ready for a little collective bargaining? You ready? I just thought of something. It's December. I don't have January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October at all for next year. I want to put you on the spot and ask you if you will re-up and commit to Ask the Congressman for 2018.
You would have to fight me off not to.
Beautiful. So that's a signed collective bargaining agreement, and I appreciate that very, very much. Let's go back to your citizens of the district who are calling in for United States Congressman Frank LoBiondo at 34 minutes past the hour on WPG and Hurley in the Morning. Welcome to the program. Your question for the Congressman, please.
Top of the morning, Congressman LoBiondo and Harry. Harry, I just said a prayer for your wife's surgery and recovery during the break, and I'm sure God has his hands helping the surgeon do a great job.
Thank you.
My question for the Congressman, my name is Joe from EHT. I went to the VA clinic yesterday in Northfield, and I had a good experience. They got more staff. And guess what? They're friendlier. People smile at you now. And the person who took my blood, she took 5 vials of blood, and I didn't feel a thing, Congressman. I mean, they hire competent people who enjoy their job. And the only caveat to the whole thing is the bus. I took the ride to the Wilmington and threw my back out. The bus has no shocks. Yeah. They got rid of the new bus. And they got an old bus. Has no shocks. It's almost riding.
Joe, let me jump in for a minute. First, thank you for your service to our country. Secondly, we now have more than 400 service provider agreements signed. So if you're choosing to get your care closer to home, and not go to Wilmington, that should not be a problem. All of our hospitals are on board, many of our healthcare providers, and if you have any trouble with that, you can call Michael Francis in my office, because this is the whole idea, to only have people on that bus who absolutely want to go to Wilmington. And by the way, the bus is supposed to be a van, not a bus. So something must have been wrong with the van, because we got rid of the bus about a year ago and replaced it with a van. So
well, the van is not there. It's a diesel, old. It's very old. It has no shocks.
Okay, well, that's not what we are normally using. I'll find out about this when business opens this morning. I appreciate you bringing it to my attention.
And thank you for about the alternatives, because I don't want to go to Wilmington. I don't want to go.
Well, it sounds like you don't have to now, Joe.
Should be no problem getting you care closer to home.
Thank you, Congressman. And
call Mike Francis.
Oh yeah, I know Mike Francis. He's a great guy.
Give him a call.
All right, thank you, Congressman.
See you, Joe. 609-407-1450, one open phone line. Welcome to Ask the Congressman. You're on the air. Go.
Harry, firstly, hope Margie's all right. Frank, firstly, thank you very much for your service and relentless hours and hard dedication for our area. You will definitely be missed. My question is that during the Obama administration, didn't he give the rights away to the Internet somehow, number one? And what is net neutrality that there's a lot of controversy about?
Well, it's complicated. Obama changed the rules. The current FCC chair is putting the rules back to where it was prior to Obama, the way it looks, and it's not a vote in Congress. It's just going back to the way it was before Obama changed it. And Obama, as we know, changed a lot of different things just sort of by executive order, not by allowing legislation to do it. So what's happening now is it's just going back to the way it was before.
So did he actually give the rights to the Internet, or somehow I'm screwing it up, but did he give the rights to our Internet away or something?
Well, they're two separate issues. That's as far as who controls the Internet. Yes, he attempted to do that, to give it to international control.
Correct.
Neutrality is not. That's not that issue.
The two separate things, Rich. What the congressman is talking about, and I remember this very, very well because we spent hours railing against this decision, because for decades we had control of the domain names. That's the big deal. You could say, well, we didn't give away control of the Internet, but we did give away to what's called ICANN, ICANN. We gave away control of the domain names. So that's big, because if they deactivate your domain name or you don't get one, it was a big deal. And I thought, Congressman, that was a really bad mistake.
It was, along with a whole long list of bad mistakes that former president did, giving something to international control that was always our control. But you're correct, Harry. They're two separate issues.
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much, and I wish you the best.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks, Rich. Thanks for the call. 609-407-1450, an open phone line. 39 minutes past the hour. Welcome to Ask the Congressman. Your question for Congressman LoBiondo, please.
Harry, Bob from Cape May. I just wish, Margie all the best. We'll say our prayers for, and Congressman, I just want to congratulate you on a new career, whatever you choose that to be. But just to illustrate the kind of service you provided for this district here. In Cape May, we were going to lose our Coast Guard base, which just would have had devastating economic consequences. It's a long time ago, but I know the congressman just did yeoman's work.
And Bob, on top of that, there was a very big push. I think a lot of people forget. That's the problem, is the short-term memory itis that we, just as humans, we are afflicted by. There was a big push years ago, Congressman, to take away all the things that we do at the FAA Tech Center, correct?
Well, it was not to take it away, to move it, to move it to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And that came right on the heels of our success to keep the Coast Guard base, the only Coast Guard recruit training center, by the way, in the entire United States of America, to keep moving it to Petaluma, California. But I also want to thank Bob, because when we talk about friendship and loyalty, when prior to running for Congress, when former Assemblyman Guy Musiani came to me and told me that he had cancer and couldn't run for re-election to the Assembly and asked me to do it, and there was some dicey times in Cape May County, so to speak, with a kid from Cumberland County that nobody knew, and Bob was one of the very strong and early supporters that I met with, continued to be a strong and great supporter through the years, and I just want to tell you publicly, Bob, I appreciate all that, plus your brilliant insight into issues. I don't know how you are so well-read on so many different things that you've helped me understand a lot better, so thank you.
Well, Frank, thank you. I really appreciate that. But I'll tell you, when I just want you to know, too, when I've got pretty good instincts about people, and when I guess we first met in the early 90s, I really said to myself, this is a genuine good person and be great for the county and an absolute super capable leader, and you've turned out to be all that, Frank, and we're going to miss you, but hey, look, there's a new beginning for you, and that's I'm glad you're making this decision now, because you have a lot of good years left.
Well, thank you so much.
All right, take care,
Bob.
Frank, and bye-bye now.
Congressman, let me follow up on something because I can't help it. I'm early in the morning. I can't help it. There's a very good chance. Obviously, a Democrat is taking over as governor of New Jersey, and I believe that people that have maligned Governor Christie are going to realize, well, what kept all that stuff from happening before? Yeah, it was Governor Chris Christie. Things that the Democratic legislature literally could not do because he was able to block certain things. So he was able to be very effective in terms of being proactive, working with Senate President Sweeney and the General Assembly when they could, in terms of some of the reforms that they did, pension and otherwise, and some other good work that they were able to do bipartisan. But now that New Jersey will be Democrat governor, Democrat Senate, Democrat Assembly, I think a lot of people are going to suddenly, that were trashing Governor Christie on a near daily basis, are going to remember all of a sudden, whoa, boy, I feel bad now. So absence does have this sort of tendency to make the heart grow fonder. I predict that that's something that will become abundantly clear before the end of the second quarter of 2018. I'm just going to say it because I believe it. I think there's a very good chance that a Democrat will succeed you. He's a good man, but it will also, I think, potentially flip. So I think there is something to be said about Republicans that were able to win election in either their state or their congressional district, and then to win again, and in your case, to win again and again and again and again and again and again. And I won't get silly and do that 12 times, but you did it. What are your thoughts about that statement? It's not as partisan as it sounds. It's a very, I think, intellectually honest statement.
Well, I think you're right about Governor Christie, especially based on what Governor-elect has promised he would do during the campaign, that I think is just going to devastate the state of New Jersey, and there'll be no backstop with the legislature. This stuff will be rammed through. Thank you for your kind comments about me once again. Yeah. And if it is a Democrat that follows me, there are a lot of things that sort of have to wait and see. So one of the big things is what will happen with control of Congress. Do Republicans retain control, and Democrats have to win 22 seats, and then you will have Speaker Nancy Pelosi. And Speaker Nancy Pelosi, everybody got a taste of that in 2007, 8, 9, and 10. Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Majority Leader Chuck Schumer will do things that will make their majorities in 2007, 8, 9, and 10 look like kid stuff. And any Democrats who are on board are going to be just dragged along for the ride. That's the reality of Washington. So the majority in Congress means a lot for which way we go. And I believe if they do, you saw this evidenced yesterday by 50 or 60 of the more crazier ones, so to speak.
58.
But if, in fact, they get the majorities, you will see those impeachment proceedings proceed, I believe, almost immediately.
Could not agree more. Let's get our final break in. One more power segment straight ahead. It's evaporating. Congressman LoBiondo's program goes so fast, it should probably be 2 hours long, and we still wouldn't have enough time. Phone lines are open at 609-407-1450. I want to let the congressman know as we go to break, a lot of really great people have been text messaging me and social media messaging me and checking in all during this hour. A lot of great well wishes and thanks. And this is certainly not a goodbye, because we have 13 more programs of Ask the Congressman, and I'm sure many visits at other strategic points beyond just the regular hour program that we do. But Ken Mosca has checked in and said to send his best wishes. Senator Sonny McCullough. Let me put Congressman LoBiondo's mic back on for a second, because when it comes to the first 5 from Atlantic County that supported Congressman Frank LoBiondo, one was Harry Hurley. Another one was James J. Sonny McCullough. We came on board when people were saying things like, hey, when this thing goes the other way, there's going to be hits. I mean, we stuck our heads out when it wasn't very safe.
You stuck your head out along with Sonny, and Sonny has always been a force, I think, for like 100 years in Atlantic County and beyond. And in 1992, when you stood with me, there was another person who stood with me and didn't laugh at me and drove me around, put me in his car and drove me around to different Republican places and introducing me to people and saying kind words about me and putting his faith and trust in me. And then when the going really got tough in Atlantic County in 1994, with a little bit of a primary going on, he stuck with me even stronger than before. And you don't forget those things. So Sonny has been a trusted friend, a very strong advisor, very good insight. We communicate on a regular basis, and one of the relationships that I really value and cherish.
What a great comment. We're going to be right back. 47 minutes past the hour. If you have a question for your United States Congressman, he is here for the remainder of the hour. John Zarek coming up in the next quarter. We have a great doctor from Deborah Heart and Lung Center at 9:05. We're going to be talking about diabetes. So if you have a question about type 1, type 2, anything about diabetes, we'll be chatting about that. And then we'll have some nice open forum to conclude a very special edition of the Hurley in the Morning program. Back with Ask the Congressman in just a few minutes. 609-407-1450. Phone lines are open. Ladies and gentlemen, give me the next question when we come back, because I think it's essential that we discuss with Congressman LoBiondo the latest regarding the Tax Act and what he knows about it. He's a no vote to date. Does the congressman think there's anything during the conference reconciliation process where perhaps that could change? We'll talk about all that and more. Other national issues, some of the world affairs issues that are very close to Congressman LoBiondo's position in the committees that he serves. I do want to talk about the recent aviation subcommittee hearing and reference LoBiondo and Schuster in terms of the unmanned aircraft systems, why this is important, and, of course, taking your phone calls at 609-407-1450. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. Don't go away.
WPG Talk Radio 104.1 presents Ask the Congressman. It's your opportunity to talk directly to Congressman Frank LoBiondo. Call 407-1450. Now, with Congressman Frank LoBiondo, here's Harry Hurley.
Hey, thank you very much. Time is flying by. 8 minutes before the top of the hour, which means 8 minutes left in this episode of Ask the Congressman. We'll get at least one more phone call in. Let me let this caller know that it will be you, so hang in there. We'll get to you, but I've got to get this question out about the tax legislation. What can you tell us? Because obviously it gets very confusing for us mere mortals, because obviously the House passed something, the Senate passed something. They're very different from one another. Now, who knows? Will there even be, 50 votes at least, with Pence being the tiebreaker and 218 or whatever the number is right now? I think there might be one member missing, so it might be 217. What's the latest that you can tell us, Congressman?
So just for a quick backdrop to our listeners, in order for a bill to get to the president's desk, it must be exactly the same from both the House and the Senate. And the Senate bill has significant differences from the House bill. And anyone who followed the debate will realize that they were taking individual senators' concerns and turning that into changes for the bill to secure their vote for passage. So there are a lot of individual things with Senator Collins and some others, Senator Flake and Senator Corker, et cetera. All that has to be worked out. Now, that having been said, the reality for New Jersey is very bleak. There are way in excess of 50% of taxpayers in New Jersey under either the House or Senate version who will see a tax increase. And it's not only individuals that will suffer. The New Jersey Chamber of Commerce, the president, Tom Bracken, put out a very strong statement about how this is going to negatively affect business by some other provisions that individual taxpayer, private bonds and things that are going to change in how we fund infrastructure that are negatively going to affect New Jersey. And there isn't a single person who was appointed to the conference committee from the House or the Senate who has a care in the world about the things that are going to hurt New Jersey, New York, and a couple of other places, eastern Pennsylvania.
Is this our version of like Obamacare? I mean, the abomination of calling it the Affordable Care Act, and everybody watched their copays, their deductibles, their premiums absolutely explode. And I already know. I mean, I'm clearly one of those that's and I'm not rich, but I guess I'm too rich to know the difference because I'm definitely one of those people that's going to get a tax increase. I mean, for something to be called, tax relief, the Jobs and Tax Act, and we're going to reduce your taxes and reduce your tax rates, and we're going to pay more? This doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, it makes no sense at all. And there was a small group of us, Peter King, myself, a couple of others, 3 or 4 of us, who gave them multiple alternatives to, in fact, fix this and make it better, to phase it in, to give us a break, to give us some relief. And at every turn, we were just, there were crickets. And I believe they felt that they could do this and they could lose up to 22 votes and still pass it, and that they just did not want to consider. Now, unfortunately, they just did that with flood insurance. And unfortunately, they did it with the tax bill, which is even a bigger consequence because more people are more negatively affected, and the state itself is very negatively affected. So I don't know what the final conference report will look like or even if they'll get there. There's a big push. We're going to vote today to extend the government's authority, which runs out tomorrow at midnight, by the way. We're going to vote to extend that. I believe we'll vote to extend it for 2 weeks to December 22nd. And on December 22nd, they're supposed to have wrapped up the tax package. They're supposed to have wrapped up the end-of-the-year spending scenarios, of which Schumer and Pelosi are going to the White House today. And unfortunately, the president made a statement a day or two ago that he thinks we're going to have a government shutdown.
Heard him say.
And I can't believe we're headed in this direction, but Schumer can control that if he's making demands, because in order to keep the government open, unlike the tax bill, you don't need 50 Republicans. You need 60 in the Senate to allow us to keep the government open.
Congressman, it seems inconceivable to me that you will do anything other than vote no for this. Is that a pretty fair statement at this point?
In its current form, absolutely. It is absolutely disastrous for the people I represent.
Are you getting more heat about it or more understanding that you've done? Because it's kind of a disconnect. The polls show, and these are reliable scientific polls, not heated up partisan, Democrat or Republican polls, Gallup and a few others that I actually trust. This thing is very unpopular with what people know about it. But I almost think I like a good sense of humor like the next guy, Congressman. I found it ironic and just absolutely hilarious that here you voted no, and you had people protesting at your office that want to vote, that don't want this to go down. They should have been like having a pep rally for LoBiondo. He voted no. So it's
Harry,
crazy.
They protest me for breathing. I mean,
even when you agree with them, they were protesting.
The calls are coming in, and they're very mixed. The calls that are coming in are, you need to support this regardless of what's in it. And people not even know. And then, you've got people calling in saying, I don't care what the final version is, vote against it. So if the final version happens miraculous to be fixed,
then you vote for it.
It's one of those catch-22 things.
Let's get in one more call, 2-minute drill. You're on the air with Congressman LoBiondo. Go.
Merry Christmas, Congressman LoBiondo. It's Linda.
Merry Christmas, Linda.
Thank you, and may God's riches and best be yours as you move into a great new phase of life. Congressman, it was January 3rd, I believe, in and around that date. And we had Senator Schumer, and just prior to that, our president was supposed to be briefed, and evidently the intel community that was briefing him, they had to delay it, and Trump had said that the briefing on something to do the briefing about the Russian cyber attacks had been delayed in order to build a case. Now this is pre-inauguration, and then you had Senator Schumer, who I really appreciate, explained to us exactly what was about. He was prophetic. What was about to take place. He said Donald Trump is being really dumb for picking a fight with the intelligence officials. And then he goes on to say, let me tell you, you take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you.
30 seconds for a comment from Congressman LoBiondo. That's all we've got. Congressman.
Well, I know where Linda's going with this, and it's not the whole. There's 17 intelligence agencies. What you're talking about is the FBI, and the FBI's got serious problems. The former director of the CIA, the former director of National Intelligence have serious problems in how they handled that. But the current FBI still has problems. But the current CIA and NSA, I don't believe they're in that category.
To be continued. That is the finish line. We're there. Thank you, Congressman.